Hi, I'm Terry, and welcome to Cat Scratch Kitchen. When we move into fall, I start thinking about things like Oktoberfest. And when I think about that, I think about pretzels. Nice, soft, warm pretzels. So today we're going to make some pretzels. They're going to be a little bit different though. They won't be the normal twisted pretzel. They're going to be pretzel bites. They're going to be perfect to put in a bowl or in a tray and set out with some nice, warm, gooey cheese sauce. So let's get started. Okay, we're going to start with 3/4 cup of warm water. It needs to be about 110 degrees. And we're going to add to that a 1/2 teaspoon of active dry yeast. If you're using regular yeast, you're going to want to stir it together and let it sit for about 5 minutes until it gets bubbly. I'm using fast action or rapid rise yeast, so all I'm doing is really just dissolving it. While that sits, we're going to take 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to put them in my food processor. Now, normally the recipe would tell you to use a stand mixer. I don't have a stand mixer right now, so I'm using my food processor. You could also do it by hand, but I don't want to go through all the kneading. So I'm going to use the food processor to take care of that step for me. Then we have a teaspoon of sugar and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We're going to add that to our flour. Just give it a couple of whirls to mix the salt and sugar together with the flour. Now we're going to put in our yeast mixture. And now we're going to go ahead and turn it on, and I'm just going to pulse it because I just want it to get to the point where it's in a ball. Now you can see that it's formed a ball inside and you've got more like a dough. So at this point, now what I want to do is I want to let the food processor just knead it together. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it on for about 3 minutes now so that it has a chance to actually knead the dough. And it prevents me having to do it. Once it's kneaded, you just want to take it out. Now it's going to be a little bit sticky, but we just want to drop it in a greased bowl and cover it with a dish towel and let it set in a draft-free place for about an hour until it gets puffy. Once it gets to that point, it'll be less sticky as well. Okay, now, when the pretzel bites are cut and raised, then we're going to dip them in a baking soda and water combination. That gives us that nice shiny crust that we want that's pretzel-like. So we need 2 cups of water. And then 2 tablespoons of baking soda. And just want to mix that together until it dissolves. And we'll start dipping our pretzel bites in and putting them on our baking sheet. We get our baking sheet, we want to prep it a little bit with some cooking spray. Just helps hold the parchment paper in place. A sheet of parchment paper. Just like that. It's been an hour. Now we're going to take a look at our dough. You see how nice it's puffed up. Definitely doubled So first I'm going to flour the board just a little bit, just to make it easier to work with. A little bit of flour on top, just a little bit. We don't want to add a whole lot of flour to it. Feels so good. I mean, it's not sticky anymore. It's super soft. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to form a disc, and then we're going to cut that disc into 12 portions. Doesn't have to be perfect, and the portions don't have to be absolutely even. So I'm just going to start down the center. Now we need to cut each of these into 3. Just like that. And you see they're not exactly the same size. I'm just going to make them into a little ball so that they don't have a bunch of dry edges to dry out. This just makes it easier to handle in smaller portions, and the reason it really doesn't have to be exact is because we're going to be rolling these then out into small tubes or ropes and then cutting them into the bites. So if you have a larger piece, you're just going to make a little longer rope. And you want a rope about the size of your pinky finger in diameter, because it is going to rise again. Okay, then we're going to cut it into about 1.5 inch pieces. Like that. Going to have our parchment lined pan ready to go, and our water with the baking soda in it. You want to drop your little pretzel nuggets into the soda water and then take them right back out and place them on your pan. Now if you wanted to, the same dough, you could make a regular twisted pretzel, and you would just drop the twisted pretzel into the soda water as well and put it on your baking sheet. So we'll just keep going, get the rest of these cut up. Once we put them on the tray, we're going to let them rest for 30 minutes. They're going to puff up a little bit more. We're going to let them rest with a dish towel over the top. They're going to puff up again before we put them in the oven. The oven needs to be at 450 degrees, and you're going to want to bake them for 8 to 10 minutes until they're golden brown. So this tray is ready now. We're going to cover it with a dish towel and let it rest for about 30 minutes. They're going to rise just a little bit more, and then we're going to put them in the oven. I've finished cutting them all up. They've all been dunked in the soda water, and I put them on the trays. I covered them with a dish towel and let them set for 30 minutes. And you can see they've puffed up just a little bit. And now they're ready to put into our hot 450 degree oven. And we're going to leave them there for 8 to 10 minutes. Be right back. Okay, while we're waiting for our pretzel dough to rise, we're going to go ahead and put the cheese sauce together. we have 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Now typically I don't make a point of getting unsalted butter, but because pretzels have so much salt already, I'm going to go ahead and use the unsalted butter. And we just want to melt the butter down. The nice thing about this cheese sauce is it's not real tangy like cheddar, because we're not using a sharp cheddar with this. We're using actually American cheese, which where I am is a whole lot easier to find. Okay, once the butter's melted, we're going to add 4 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, as well as a half a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of mustard powder, ground mustard. Whisk them together well. And you're making basically a cheese sauce like you would make for mac and cheese, just with the addition of a little bit of mustard. Now we're going to gradually add 2 cups of milk. And whisk it really well in between. You don't need to let this roux get to a dark color. I'm going to keep whisking so that we make sure we don't have any lumps. That's looking good. I don't see any visible lumps. I'm going to add the 2nd cup of milk. Now we want to let it heat through. Once it gets good and warm, we have 8 ounces of shredded American cheese. Like I said, this makes a really mild cheese sauce. You could use it actually as mac and cheese. About a half a cup of the cheese sauce with a cup of cooked macaroni would make a really good mac and cheese. You can let me know in the comments if you'd like to actually see a mac and cheese video. We could do that too. Now we're going to take the cheese and just add it a little at a time. A couple of half handfuls at a time. Stir it through. What I just did is not what you're supposed to do. You really should let that milk start to thicken before you start adding the cheese. But because I jumped the gun and started adding the cheese, I stopped about halfway through and I let it go ahead and start to thicken. And as you can see now, it's actually starting to thicken. Now, at this point is when you should really start adding the cheese, and I'll add the rest of mine. And once all the cheese melts, it'll be ready, and it'll thicken up even a little more once it cools just a little bit, but you do want to serve it warm. If it gets cold before your pretzels are ready, you can stick it in the microwave easily for like 30-second increments and heat it up again. But you can tell just on the edges of the pan how thick it's getting. And here they are, fresh out of the oven. We want to take a pastry brush and just evenly coat them all with some melted butter. I'm using unsalted butter, but you could use salted if you prefer. And then take some coarse salt and just sprinkle over the top while they're still moist from the butter so that the salt sticks to the tops. And we have our hot cheese sauce. We're just going to ladle some into a serving dish to go along with our pretzel bites. So there you have them. Little pretzel bites with some yummy cheese. Looks really good. Tastes good too. So that's it. Perfect for your Oktoberfest in your home or just a snack anytime. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you take a moment to go down in the comments and let me know what you think and if you tried them, how you liked them. Be sure and subscribe if you haven't already while you're there. We'll see you again next week with a new recipe.